All right, so you are going to open Photoshop again, and we're going to practice with some items that I've already created and get some practice using your layers. So we need to go into Poland and then My Folder, and in Poland Pickup, there's a photo or a folder here called PS Layers. PS stands for Photoshop. And there are 4 files here. So I want you to select all of them. Notice that I can select all by doing a click and drag. I can also use my keyboard shortcut, Command A. Once I have all of them selected, I'm going to drag them into Photoshop to open them up. Now, you are going to need to resize Photoshop to fit half your screen so that you can view this video in the other half of the screen. So you want to do something like this and then arrange it so that you have enough room. When you have YouTube open, and I'm going to pull up something randomly from my channel. You can hit Command plus a few times to zoom in on that half of the screen. You can even hit this settings to change the quality to a higher setting to make it easier to see. Okay, so do that before you get started here. All right, so we have 4 files, and I know we have 4 files because if you look at the top, you'll see that there are 4 tabs here. This shows me what these 4 files are and what they're called. Now, I can use a tool here under my window menu, Window Arrange, so that I can see more than one file at a time. So I'm going to choose 2 up vertical, just like that. Now, if red is not your file that's by itself over here on the right, I want you to know that you can drag and drop, and you notice that you can drop it whenever the outline turns blue, and get the red square over here by itself on this side and your other 3 files over here on this side. All right, so if we look here, notice that we have one layer on this red square, and it tells us it's a rectangle. Okay, this is our layers panel. Right here, I have what is called my selection tool, or my move tool rather. Move tool is in the family of selection tools. It allows us to click on an object and move it. Now, when you have this tool selected, I always like to check this box next to auto select, because if I have it selected, then it is going to allow me to move this wherever I see fit. Okay? Now, I just moved this 100 different ways. So if I Command Z and it doesn't go back, I can go to my history panel, and my history panel will allow me to go back to the beginning place. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at Pink Heart, and I want to drag over Pink Heart into my red rectangle. Notice now that I have 2 layers. Okay, red is on the bottom, the pink heart is on top, which is why I'm able to see it, because it's in front of the rectangle. Whatever's on top is in front. Notice how I can drag over multiple hearts. There we go. And each one makes its own layer. Because I have auto select selected, I can move those hearts anywhere I want on this page. Next, let's go to the green triangle. Green triangle will allow me to drag that over. Notice how this triangle, it says polygon 1, okay, and it's in front. That means that whenever I put it on top of a heart, it covers it up. If I want it to go behind a heart, I would need to drag that layer down below the hearts. Let's go to blue circle. Let's drag blue circle over. Now, because my layer of polygon was selected, when I drug this over, the ellipse or the circle went just above that layer. So it's already behind the hearts. But what if I want it behind the circle? I can drag that down one, and I can position that anywhere I want. Now, let's say we want these hearts to be different sizes. If we go here to the Edit menu, Edit menu, and choose Transform Path, we have the ability to scale, rotate, skew, distort, perspective warp, rotates, flips, etc. on whatever item we choose. The keyboard shortcut to transform is Command T. Notice when I Command T, I get the bounding boxes around my heart. Now, I want you to notice that if I just randomly drag on a corner or a side, how it resizes it, but it is not the same proportion as what I originally brought it into. When I double click, I commit to that transformation. Okay? So I'm going to choose a different heart, and I'm going to transform this in a different way. I'm going to Command T. This time, when I drag a corner, I'm going to hold my Shift key down. Notice that when I drag my corner with my Shift key, it keeps it in proportion. In proportion means that as it grows in width, it grows the same amount in height. And typically when we resize things, that's how we want to do it. This final one that has not yet been resized, I want to come up here to the Edit menu, and I want to choose Skew, I think. There's many ways that we can use these tools, but notice if we skew, we can drag the upper corners, or we could drag bottom corners too, to give it a completely different look. And again, double click, you can hit the check mark or go back to the select or the move tool to apply the transformation. Okay? Now, we can also recolor these items. So if I pick one of these hearts and double click on, notice I double clicked on the thumbnail, I can change the color. So I'm going to change that one to yellow. Okay? I'm going to change this one to a purple and click OK. Now, one of the things that I really like, and actually let's go to this ellipse. I want to make this a little bit bigger, and I'm holding down my Shift key to do so. Okay? All right. So after I make that a little bit bigger, if I select all of my layers, I can, if I look up here in the options, and if you don't see these up here in the options, it's because you don't have your move tool selected. Okay? So I look up here in my options and notice that I am able to align the vertical centers. I'm going to click on that. Okay, so now notice that they're all aligned vertically here. Then I move over one and I'm aligning the horizontal centers. So now they are all perfectly in the middle of the page. And at this point, I can reorder them, okay, so that I can see the different shapes. Whoops. There. And maybe I decide that I want this one to be bigger so I can see it behind the hearts. And if I do that, then I need to go ahead and align them again. Okay, so I can do a lot of things with my layers. I can rename it yellow heart if I wanted. I could, if I double click over here, I could put a layer style on it. Look, bevel and emboss. Outer glow. Drop shadow. Okay, so lots of tools here in the layers panel. You've got to be able to move them around. You've got to learn how to resize just that layer and how to be able to select just a piece of the layer. If I had this auto select unchecked, notice that when I click over here on this yellow heart, notice it doesn't get selected. It's the layer of the ellipse that gets selected. Okay, I would have to go over here and move. Whoops. And I would have to move specifically each layer by clicking it. Auto select allows me to click on the actual object and it automatically selects it in the layer. Go ahead and save this file. Because you opened it from Poland, remember you're going to have to do a file save as because it's not going to allow you to save it into Poland Pickup. You're going to have to come over here to the left, choose Cougar 11, find Schools, SFM, find your name, and we're going to name this your period number, your last name, and we're just going to call this shapes. Now, again, I don't have a folder in school, so I'm clicking here for myself. I'm going to save it as a Photoshop file, and then I'm going to go back in and I'm going to save it as a JPEG file so that I can put it on my Google site. Click OK. Now, I forgot to do one more thing. Instead of just leaving it this as is, we need to use our text tool. Black needs to be the foreground color, and you need to be at the top layer, and you need to type your first and last name. Ooh, that's too big. Whatever the default font is fine. If you're unsure of a font, use Arial. 20 points will be fine. And then type whatever period you're in. And you can move that to the bottom right of your screen. Save it again, and then you'll have to save as and save as Photoshop again. Or sorry, save as a JPEG again. And then you'll replace it. Okay, so make sure that you get your name and your period number down in the bottom right corner.